Where are we gonna start? I have no idea. Does the peanut gallery have any suggestions? Start with the score? No. That's too simple. Start with Domi being an idiot? No, we're not breaking any new ground with that one. Oh, I got it. Let's start with Jamie Benn. Everybody's talked about that one already. We gotta do something original. I've got it. I've got exactly what we need to talk about. Popcorn. Ah, yes, those subjects and many more will be discussed in this episode of What the Heck is the Stanley Cup Playoffs? And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Golden Knights win Game 3 of the Western Conference Final by a final score of 4-0, taking a stranglehold 3-0 lead in their series over the Dallas Stars. Now, this game got off to a little bit of an interesting start even before the puck dropped and 20 minutes into the first ticked into 1959 of the first, in the fact that there was a little bit of a rumor going around that Chandler Stevenson might miss this game. Now, this Golden Knights forward has had an incredibly good postseason and was the overtime hero in Game 2. Apparently, he had a little bit of a stomach bug and missed practice and missed the morning skate, but he took the warm-up and he's in the lineup to kick off Game 3. And kicking off Game 3 was a little bit of an interesting thing. Dallas is an incredibly good home team, and you never know. Ottinger had a couple of okay games in Vegas, but they weren't exactly up to his standard. And so the fair assumption would be that the Dallas Stars netminder was going to have to kick it into high gear if he wanted to get his team back into the series and not fall into a hole down 3-0, knowing that in that scenario, Game 4 could be the last game of their season. So the game gets underway, and it doesn't take long to figure out who is going to be the better team, as just over a minute into the game, Jack Eichel would intercept a pass or a clearing attempt going up the wall in the offensive zone. He would kind of pluck it out of the air, put it down on his hand, or put it down on the ice, and scan. He's got an incredible hockey mind, and he sees a seam pass opening up. Robertson, Hintz, Heiskanen, and Suter all missed their assignments early on in the game, which allowed Jonathan Marchessault to slide across into a slot in the far boards. Jake Onger is way out of his net to challenge Eichel because he assumes that he's going to shoot it from there. Obviously, Eichel has different plans. He sees Marchessault on the far side of the ice and just lasers a seam pass across to him, which I think the pass was as hard as Marchessault's shot. And granted, all things being equal, Marchessault could have shot it at 5 miles an hour and it still would have beat Ottinger, as he wasn't even in the same time zone as this puck when it went in the goal, giving the Golden Knights an early 1-0 lead in this a pivotal Game 3. And then just a few seconds after the face-off following the Golden Knights game-opening goal, I don't understand what happened on this play. Jamie Benn is the captain of the Dallas Stars. If you didn't know that, you were under a rock or you just haven't paid attention to Dallas Stars hockey, which is fine. So Jamie Benn, emotional leader, captain of the Dallas Stars, one of the longest tenured captains in their franchise's history. You know, there's elite names on that captain's list, Morrow, Modano, and, he's up there. Ben is one of those players. And I just wonder what came over him in this play. Now, obviously, just to set the scene, the puck is chipped out and Mark Stone kind of bumps into him at the Golden Knights offensive blue line. And they kind of exchange, and yeah, Stone's stick does kind of glance off the side of Ben's head. But what happened next is, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just Mark Stone's lying on the ice, and Ben just kind of rears back and just comes down with a fist with the heat of 1,000 suns, like, that was it. Jamie, wait! And cross-checking the Golden Knights captain when he's lying on the ice. He saw it coming. The ref, which is even more mind-boggling, this happened right in front of an official. So it's not like Ben was trying to hide the fact that he was, trying to decapitate the Golden Knights captain. But ultimately, it's called a 5-minute major on the ice, kicking the Cody Eakin rule. I can't even believe I call it that, given how much trauma is associated with that name. But anyway, they review it. It's upheld as a 5-minute major penalty, and 2 minutes into the game, into a pivotal Game 3, a Game 3 in which the Dallas Stars need to win, their captain's headed for an early shower.
And this was my reaction to what he said in his press conference this afternoon.
Jamie, show me where in this diagram you were falling, because you're standing there, and then you're not standing there.
Now, this is an unpopular opinion, but in my opinion, and this is take it for what it's worth, there is such a thing as too early in the game for a power play, and this is one of those instances. The Golden Knights never even got to put their fourth line on the ice before going to this 5-minute major power play. And so to say that there had been no rhythm established is a little bit of an understatement, as the Golden Knights looked a little sloppy and a little bit disconnected for the first probably 3.5 minutes of this 5-minute power play, not really mustering any great shots. And I can't really say I blame them. It's really early. Gary Lawless on the radio broadcast was echoing the sentiment, saying that they really never had a chance to establish their cycle. And so, of course, they're going to have a hard time getting going, especially on this power play. And ultimately, this would kind of culminate in a 2-on-1, but not for the Golden Knights, for the Dallas Stars. And ultimately, why Johnston would actually have a pretty decent decent opportunity, Hill making the first save on another Stars player. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. But the puck kind of found Johnston, but he wasn't able to get a clean release on it. And so the Golden Knights get going the other way. Nick Waugh crosses the offensive blue line, feeds a pass from near boards to far boards to Ivan Barbashev, who risks it where Jake Ottinger's head is supposed to be, but his head isn't there because he had slid past the puck. And the Golden Knights take a 2-0 lead on the 5-minute major power play. So ideally, this is exactly what the Golden Knights wanted in terms of how you wanted to start off this game. And I can't really argue. Ottinger has looked a little bit shaky. I checked Money Puck at this point, and the Golden Knights had 2 goals on an expected 0.1 of a goal. Yeah, Money Puck is a little bit hit or miss right now. Even though we already know the final score, 4-0, it said the Golden Knights only had a 21% chance of winning this game. That means in 80% of their, goodness knows, like 1,000 simulations, the Stars win that game. I don't know. And ultimately, Jake Ottinger's rough night would only get worse as the Golden Knights' fourth line, who finally get to chip in the play, I think it was their second shift of the game, get an interesting cycle play. Keegan Colasar wins a 50-50 puck at the offensive blue line, feeds it down to Teddy Bluger, who finds a streaking Will Carrier, who kind of carries 2 Dallas Stars players on his back and goes to chip a backhand on goal. Now, a backhand from this range, which was about the dot, from Will Carrier, is not considered incredibly dangerous. I know Carrier is very famous for his power move, and he does a really good job of, being very powerful with it, being strong, and being good on his backhand. This is a save Jake Ottinger should make 99 out of 100 times. The problem is, this was the 1 out of that 100 times where Ottinger doesn't make that save. He saw the shot. I could see in his eyes on the replay. He saw the shot. He knew where it was going. He reaches out with his glove hand, and then as the puck gets halfway to him, he decides, you know what, I don't want to catch this one. I want to get it with my elbow. And in the time it took to get the glove out of the way and the elbow up, the puck went right past it and in the net for a 3-0 Golden Knights lead. And so 7 minutes into the game, Jake Ottinger's night is done. Yeah, if whoever had that on their bingo card, I'll give it to you. I would have not expected Ottinger to have a bad game in the most important game of the postseason, or especially at least of this series, because Ottinger already played in a Game 7. The most important game of this series, to lay an egg like that, and to get replaced at home, because he was done. He got pulled. Scott Wedgwood finished out this game. To get yanked 7 minutes into a home game and to get booed off the ice, that's a tough look. That's a really tough look for the Stars. Now, the Stars would put up a little bit of a fight going into the end of the first period. I think they even got a power play. I don't remember exactly. And ultimately, the score would remain the same going into the first intermission. And as if the first period of play wasn't crazy enough, it had absolutely nothing on what the second period was. Golden Knights ended the period up 3-0 and immediately get to go onto a power play. And honestly, it was a little bit of a shaky power play. Really no complaints about it. It just wasn't exactly what it needed to be. Again, the Golden Knights didn't need to score any more goals. They already had a 3-goal lead. And according to the great Doc Emmerich, once it gets to 4, the game is over. But it's pretty obvious that the Dallas Stars were kind of out of this game. Ottinger quit on the game a long time ago. And Scott Wedgwood, while being a great goalie in his own regard, is not... He's not Jake Ottinger. And with no captain, the odds of the Stars coming back in this game are incredibly, incredibly low. And it got even lower when Alex Pietrangelo scored just a few seconds after a power play ended to put the Golden Knights up 4-0. This was at the tail end of a power play. The player in the box at the time was not able to get back into the play in time. Puck gets up high. Nick Waugh wins an inside battle, gets in front of Wedgwood, and Pietrangelo just puts a wrister on net, squeaks inside the left post behind Wedgwood, and ultimately that's a 4-0 lead. This is the Vegas Golden Knights' third goal from a defenseman for the entire postseason. First goal for Pietrangelo. I think it's like 9th point, though. He's actually having a very solid postseason, minus the goal production. He's got umpteen million assists at this point. So he's playing very solidly, and it was nice to see him get rewarded with a goal. From this point on, though, the game really started to go downhill. Now, I could cover most of the second period with the idea that, as the great commentator for the Dallas Stars, Razor, would always say, it's a parade to the penalty box. There's a revolving door on the penalty box. Razor's got a million of these isms, and I feel bad for stealing them. But there was a revolving door on the penalty box this time around, as I believe the Stars took 5 penalties in this period, and the Golden Knights took 2 or 3. But none of these penalties would be more consequential than the one that took place right at the very end of the second period. Now, the tension in the building was growing. The Boo Birds were definitely out in full force. And when Domi decided to slew foot and cross-check Nick Hague in the corner, and then Hague goes to stand up, and even though he looks like, and I can't get over this image, Nick Hague on one knee is about the same height as Domi standing up. So the image when Hague gets up, Domi spins around and decides to go punching up the tree that is Nick Hague by comparison, things are going to get a little bit crazy. So obviously that draws a crowd. There's a little bit of a melee. What's impressive is Nick Hague kept his hands down the whole time. He did a better job keeping his hands down in that fight than I am talking about the fight. When that's saying something, hands, go down. Thank you. So that happens, and Domi winds up getting a penalty for it, and then he gets a 10-minute misconduct. And for good measure, Hague got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for giving Domi a thumbs up, so that's fair, puts the Golden Knights on the power play. And so one would figure with 20-some-odd seconds to go in the period, it's okay, just don't do anything stupid and get into the intermission and everything will be fine. And by the tone of my voice, and if you've been a long-time viewer of this channel, you would think that I'm setting up a shorthanded goal against. However, this one's a little bit different. Instead of getting to drop the puck on the second period, and I can't believe I'm saying this, in the Western Conference Final, the fans of American Airlines Center just kind of lost it. The lower bowl starts littering the ice with beer cans and those light-up wristbands they were given at the door for Game 3 for the pregame ceremony. And ultimately, for the safety of the fans, for the safety of the players, and for the safety of the officials, it was decided that they wouldn't continue the period. So the Stars and the Golden Knights were sent back to their respective locker rooms with 20-some-odd seconds left on the board in the second period, with not a single second having elapsed on the Golden Knights' power play. Domi gets a 10-minute misconduct, and I can't even believe I glossed over this fact. Now, with that misconduct, even though Domi would return later in the third period, the Stars would be without an entire forward line for a good chunk of that game, as obviously Ben got ejected in the second minute of the game for his 5-minute major on Stone, and Evgeny Dodonov, former Golden Knight, got injured on a collision with Roope Hintz early on, I believe, on Dallas's first power play in the first period, and he never returned to the game. And at the time of recording this, it looks like he may not return in Game 4 either. Now, same thing can be said about Jamie Benn, but we'll get to that later. So ultimately, the Golden Knights come out to start the third period, but they have to finish the last 20 seconds of the second period, and the Golden Knights just kind of packed it in. They made sure not to make any mistakes down the stretch. They didn't do much on the power play, the second period part or the third period part, which is okay. And ultimately, Adin Hill would actually have to come up quite large in an effort to preserve what would be his first. Did you just have an aneurysm? I promise you I didn't. You just can't say that word during the game. You can't say it. It's a hockey thing. Even as a former goalie, I wouldn't even let myself think it when I was pitching one of those back when I played. Granted, that was about 9 years ago. So anyway, Hill made a couple of incredible saves, and ultimately with time winding down and the lower bowl at American Airlines Center getting emptier and emptier as the game went on, it was very obvious that Adin Hill was feeling very good. With one last flurry with less than a minute to go in the game, the Stars tried desperately to get something behind Aiden Hill, but ultimately those efforts would prove to be fruitless as the Golden Knights would hold on to win 4-0. Aiden Hill captures his first shutout as a Golden Knight and his first career postseason shutout. And he ties the Golden Knights record with 5 consecutive wins, making the Golden Knights the first team since the mid-'80s to have 2 different goalies win 5 straight games in the same postseason, with Laurent Brossoit doing it earlier, and then Aiden Hill doing it in relief of Laurent Brossoit, stretching Game 5 and Game 6 against the Oilers and 1-2-3 in the conference final against the Stars. Ultimately, the big difference maker in this game was the Golden Knights' compete level and the fact that they did not let their discipline get out of hand like they kind of did in Game 2. They let the Stars make the mistakes. They let the Stars take the penalties. They took advantage of the mistakes when they were able to, and ultimately, they set a franchise record for the least amount of shots in a single playoff game with 16. Now, the game that had the record previously was Game 1 against the Winnipeg Jets, a 5-1 loss in which the Golden Knights logged 17 shots. So it's a lot more fun to be on a low shooting affair when you win by 4 as opposed to when you lose by 4. Now, I feel like I have to address the elephant in the room, being the actions of the Dallas Stars fans during the second period that resulted in the second period being abandoned for 20 minutes and resumed at the beginning of the third. Now, I know it's easy to say that the Stars fan base is very toxic, and I know that, especially from the Golden Knights' perspective, it's correct to say, it would be theoretically correct to say that every Stars fan is like this, but, that's if you're a new Golden Knights fan. I personally, and I'm not trying to brag by saying I've been here since the first year. I've been a Golden Knights fan since December of 2017 when I saw my first game against theirs. It was that famous game in which Shea Theodore scored with 2.3 seconds to go against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was one of the greatest sports memories of my life. However, if I had been a Golden Knights fan earlier, I would have gotten to experience one of the most beautiful, heartwarming things in all of hockey. Obviously, I don't need to remind everybody what happened October 1st, 2017. And the Golden Knights had to go play their first game as a franchise in Dallas against the Stars with all that behind them. And obviously, the image that come to mind, is the Dallas Stars, their entire team skating behind the Golden Knights lineup during the national anthem as a show of support. And with that, I think the Stars and the Golden Knights as franchises are permanently linked in terms of trauma and in terms of healing. And so I understand that the Stars fans are frustrated, and I also understand that, the people who have those lower bowl seats aren't always your true fans. I have been to my fair share of games in Dallas and in Vegas, and I know that the people in the upper deck are usually your more passionate fans, and the people in the lower deck are probably your corporate seats, and they may not have the same motivations for attending a hockey game. And so, to my knowledge, the sole reaction YouTuber exclusively for Vegas Golden Knights content, I say out to the Dallas Stars community, I accept your apology. I'm sure our fan base understands what you're going through. We've had tough instances on our own. We've booed our team off the ice, and I understand it's the conference final. Just please don't do that again. We accept your apology, but please don't do that again. Oh, and don't throw popcorn on our goalie. That was unnecessarily funny, but still not cool. So yeah, the Golden Knights have a 3-0 series lead on the Dallas Stars and will look to close them out in a sweep on Thursday. Now, who and what and where are all pretty well established, especially in regards to what's the status of Captain Jamie Benn, who has been awarded not a 1, but a 2-game suspension, and it's practically a 3-game suspension, given that he only had 2 minutes of time on ice. On the Golden Knights side of the world, Brett Howden didn't play in the third period, and he's listed as a game-time decision for tomorrow's game in Game 4. But that being said, it's a 3-0 series lead. It's okay. There is a little bit of a pressure for the Golden Knights to get business taken care of, as the Florida Panthers were able to complete their sweep of the Carolina Hurricanes about an hour and a half ago, as of the time of recording this, with a late game, 5 seconds to go goal from Matthew Tkachuk. Who would have guessed? So that's something to look up. That's something to look up to. That's something to look forward to as a Golden Knights fan. What will hopefully be the conclusion of our conquest of the Western Conference and our journey to our second Stanley Cup final in 6 years, but it's not over. I'm not saying it's over. The Stars are going to make a series of this still. I'm convinced. Pavelski's only got so many years left that he can play. Robertson's got to regain his moniker as best player on the Stars. Roope Hintz is having a career playoffs, and he doesn't want to let that go to waste. And I'm 1,000% certain Jake Ottinger doesn't like the narrative being spun about him getting yanked in Game 3. So I would expect the Stars to come out and put on quite a show in front of their home fans tomorrow night. And even though the Golden Knights may not win, I'm not saying they won't, I'm just saying they might not, because that's the way hockey works. You have one winner and one loser. It's okay. It's okay, because if they lose, the Golden Knights have to come back home, Game 5 on Saturday, and try and clinch it at home. Give the fans something to really cheer about before the Stanley Cup final. Ultimately, though, they have to play 60 more good minutes of hockey, and if they do that, they'll be well on their way to claiming the Campbell Bowl and a spot in the Stanley Cup final against the Florida Panthers. What a world. That being said, I'm really excited to watch Game 4 tomorrow night. I can't wait to see if the Golden Knights are able to finish off the sweep, keep playing good and clinching games this postseason, punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup final and their date with the Florida Panthers. Can't wait. And I'm sure you guys can't either. And one last thing on the Dallas Stars fan base. If you're a Golden Knights fan who feels peeved by anything that happened when the Stars, don't attack Stars fans, Just, they had a bad night. We've all had bad nights. Just forgive, forget. Let's not be nasty. Let's be humans to one another. It's okay. It's just a game. That said, thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like it. If you really liked it, subscribe. Tell all your friends about it. Comment down below if you want to talk to me, whether you're a Stars fan or a Golden Knights fan. I love talking to you guys regardless. We're one win away. One win